Today, we're jumping into a sermon from Pastor James Knight that really breaks down one of the most famous stories in the Bible, the moment the first disciples were called. It's all about what happens when you're asked to make a huge decision without having all the answers, and it really starts with one simple, direct question.
So let's get right into it. The whole message really hinges on this single powerful question, one that doesn't really leave any room for maybe. It forces you to make a choice.
And believe it or not, the sermon kicks off with a line from a pretty unexpected place, the 2016 movie Central Intelligence. That's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson putting a very, very confused Kevin Hart right on the spot.
So you gotta picture this. Kevin Hart's character has absolutely no clue what he's getting into. He's like, in or out of what? But The Rock just shuts him down. No time for questions, just action. He's being forced to choose right then and there without any of the details.
And that's really the whole point, right? The sermon argues that life, and yes, sometimes God, puts us in that same exact spot. It's a call to jump in, a call to commit, before we have the full picture, before all our questions are neatly answered.
Okay, so with that in mind, let's get to the heart of it, the biblical story from the Gospel of Matthew that this whole sermon is built around. The scene is the Sea of Galilee. Jesus is walking along and sees two brothers, Simon Peter and Andrew. They're fishermen doing their job, and his call to them is so direct: "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men."
A little further on, he sees two other brothers, James and John, also fishermen, working with their father. He calls them too, and their response is just as wild. The text hammers this home, right? It uses that key word twice, immediately.
Yeah, it's super important to get this. This wasn't like a casual, hey, want to hang out kind of thing. In that culture, it was a command to become his student, his disciple. I mean, this meant they had to drop everything: their job, their family business, their entire way of life.
So, this is where it gets really interesting. It's not just that they responded, it's how they responded.
There's that word again, immediately. There was no hesitation, no, hey, can I get a 5-year plan? No, let me think about it and get back to you. They just dropped their nets and they went. That right there, all in response, is really the foundation for this entire sermon.
And the sermon uses this story to argue against a concept that the theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer called cheap grace. You can see it here. It's basically the idea of getting all the benefits of faith, like forgiveness, without any of the responsibility or the life change that's supposed to come with it.
And this really gets to the core of the debate, doesn't it? Is salvation just a transaction? A one-time event, you say a prayer, you're done? Or is it a transformation, a process that actually truly changes who you are and how you live? The sermon argues pretty forcefully that it has to be a transformation. So if it is a transformation, what does that actually look like day to day? Well, the sermon gives us a super simple 3-part framework for it.
It's called drop, do, and don't. It's pretty straightforward. First, you drop the old. Second, you do what God is doing. And third, you don't get discouraged. All right, let's break each one down.
Okay, step 1, drop the old. This is just like those fishermen dropping their nets. It means you got to actively let go of the stuff that's holding you back. That could be bad habits, things that are comfortable but not good for you. It could even be your past. The idea is to make room for something new. Step 2 builds right on that. Do what God is doing. This is the action part. It's not about sitting around waiting for some big sign from the sky. It's about looking around, seeing where good things are happening, and just joining in. The sermon's point is, you can be a missionary wherever you are, at your job, in your hobbies, in your neighborhood. And finally, step 3, don't get discouraged. And honestly, this is the reality check. The sermon makes it clear. This path is not promised to be easy. And the goal isn't what the world calls success. More money, more fame. The real goal is learning to depend on God through all of it, the good and the bad.
And to really drive home this final point about not getting discouraged, the sermon tells a simple but pretty powerful story.
Okay, so picture this. A grandfather, his son, and his 6-year-old grandson are all in a fishing tournament. They're out on the water all day long, watching other boats pull in 10, 15 fish. And these guys, they've caught absolutely nothing. Zilch.
Then, with just minutes left in the tournament, they finally get a bite. They reel it in, and after a whole day of trying, they've caught one. Just one fish.
So as they're heading back to the dock, another boat pulls up and yells, "Hey, how many did you guys hook today?" Before the adults can even say anything, that 6-year-old boy, just filled with absolute joy, jumps up and screams at the top of his lungs, "We caught one!"
And that's the whole lesson. It's okay to be ecstatic about one fish. The moral of the story is, don't get discouraged if your results seem small compared to everyone else's. The value isn't in the big numbers, it's in the one.
So to wrap this all up, the message is pretty clear. When the call comes, the invitation is to respond right away, to drop the old stuff, to get involved in what God is doing, and maybe most importantly, not to let what the world thinks are small results get you down.
And that really leaves us with one final, very personal question. The sermon suggests that in life, the call is always being made. The only question left is, how will you respond?